Hi there. This is Afro Perspectives. I'm back again with the latest news on the Zimbabwean political landscape. Over the weekend, we had the contest for the leadership of the Association for the War Veterans. There were 4 candidates who took part at the ZANU PF National Conference Center in the Midlands province, that is in Gweru to be precise. The election results were as follows. Cephas Ncube got 294 votes. Then another Ncube, this time by the name Albert, got 90 votes. And then Victor Matemadanda, the current ambassador, Zimbabwean ambassador to Mozambique, got 75 votes. And then Chris Mchangwa, yes, Mr. Chris Mutsvangwa, the motormouth, Mr. Loudmouth, he got 11 votes, just 11 votes. He came last. So there we are, 4 candidates, and out of those 4 candidates, the least popular was Chris Mchangwa with just 11 votes, like I've said before. I have to say something here. These results, although they might appear just like ordinary results, like in any other election, here they point to something else, something that is so significant in ZANU PF. The 2 Ncubes who have participated in this election, Cephas and Albert, both of them are from Bulawayo. And they are from the information that we get from various sources, they are aligned to the Chewenga faction. So what that points to is that Chris Mchangwa, although he has his own political ambitions of taking over from Mnangagwa, he only got just 11 votes, and that in terms of the politics in ZANU PF, that kills all the ambition Chris Mchangwa had of succeeding over Mnangagwa. So in terms of the dynamics of the leadership contest in ZANU PF, Chris Mchangwa is the least popular in terms of the veteran base in the war of veterans. And the 2 Ncubes, although they are from Bulawayo, they are aligned to Chewenga, and this points to one thing. It points that to the ascendancy of the Chewenga faction, and Chewenga is consolidating his grip in ZANU PF, even amongst the war veterans. And this is an interesting dynamic. This is coming out that although Mnangagwa has got his people on the ground, the organization fires, and they are chanting the 2030 slogan, as we recently saw at the Hiroseka during the burial of Ncubes. The military actually ordered people who were holding those banners, the 2030 banners, to hide them somewhere, just wrap them up and hide them somewhere. And that was the message during the burial of Ncubes. So this is where we are with the dynamics in ZANU PF. And Chris Mchangwa is an interesting sort of candidate here, because before this election, we were thinking that his leadership of the war vets is just a done thing, a shoe-in. He is going to continue in that position. Now we have this election and he has lost. He has been in that position as leader of the war vets for the past donkey's years. And so the other leaders of the new executive who were elected in Gweru, let me just look at the list and see if I can get you the names. Yeah. So we have Joel Murerengwa, who was elected as Secretary General. Then Thomas Manyima, who is been given the post Legal Affairs. Vincent Chinone, who has been given the post of Transport. Section Ncube, another Ncube here, a third one, is been given the post to head finance. And then we have Sanik Nguni, who has been given security, and Nyembe Sitogara, who is going to lead the women's affairs. And lastly, but not least, Samuel Parenyatwa, who is the political commissar. So those are the members of the new executive for the War Veterans Association. And besides the 2 other Ncubes, as I've said before, who were elected as leader and deputy president respectively, there is another section Ncube. So what this points to is that there are now 3 Ncubes who are aligned to the Chewenga faction and who are in the top leadership of the new executive. And this presents an interesting dimension to the factional fights within the ZANU PF. And just another thing I think that needs to be taken into account. On the 7th of October, well before this election was supposed to take place, Chris Mchangwa took the matter concerning the leadership of the War Veterans Association to court, and there were 3 other people who actually claimed to be leaders of the War Veterans Association. These are Edward Dube and Elias Marashwa, and Chris Mchangwa, like I've said, went to court on the 7th of October, about a week ago, and Maduku was his lawyer, and he represented him in court, and the case went before Mrs. Justice Muzofa. And what she said about those 3 contesting the leadership of the War Veterans Association, let me see if I can read it for you. Let me just see. Yes, so like I've said above, Elias Marashwa, Christopher Mchangwa, and Edward Due, the 3 of them were claiming to be both the leaders of the Association of War Veterans, and the judge actually directed them. He says, I've directed you as follows: engage on how the matter must proceed to deal with the real issues. And then once you have done that, to appear virtually, that is before video conference, it might be Zoom or Microsoft Teams, that sort of thing, before the court, and agreed and decide on what they have agreed on the 21st of October 2024 at 3 o'clock. So the judge has besides, it's not clear why Marashwa and Due did not contest the leadership of the War Veterans Association at the Gweru conference, but before, on the 7th of October, just a week ago, they went to court in Chinhoyi, the High Court sitting in Chinhoyi, and what they were disputing Chris Mchangwa's leadership of the War Veterans Association, and they have been asked by the judge to report on the 22nd of October. That is just a day before the ZANU PF National Conference. So I think this is strategic. What it means is that whatever outcome they are going to report to the court, that is going to be validated by the court, and they won't have actually time. If they are not agreed, they won't have time actually to iron out any differences. What they are going to report is likely to be final. So yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, so Chris Mchangwa is not going to contest the top leadership of ZANU PF himself, considering that he is so unpopular with his own constituency, the War Vets. And in 2017, when Emmerson Mnangagwa came into power, Mchangwa was on the ascendancy. He was on the rise, and he was appointed advisor to Mnangagwa himself. And then he was also Minister of War Veterans. But then the problem with Chris Mchangwa is that he talks too much. He doesn't hold it back. So he's created a lot of enemies for himself since 2017. And after 2017, for taking into account the dynamics of politics in ZANU PF, Mchangwa was fired as advisor in 2018, and just earlier on this year in February, he was removed as Minister of the War Veterans, and this is where his star has been dimming. This is his decline, and this defeat probably is the end of Chris Mchangwa's political career as leader of the War Veterans and as a cabinet minister in ZANU PF itself. Because I would think if you were talking about, in terms of factional files in ZANU PF, Emmerson Mnangagwa himself would want someone who is got a political base, someone who has got people behind him, and Chris Mchangwa, as it stands now, has lost his own constituency. And yeah, so we have got two key people who are aligned to Mnangagwa's faction. They have lost their voter base in the War Veterans Association. And with this court case, I think it's just a matter of them reporting who has won the election in Gweru, and that's it. And then another interesting thing is that while the war veterans were deciding who is going to be their leader, the leader of their organization, Mnangagwa was at his precab farm, and this time he invited deputy ministers to visit his farm. He is actually in the process of strategizing, putting in place a plan to counter the other faction headed by Chewenga. And he is using his farm as a base to plot for his own long-term survival. In the pictures there, as you can see, he had Scott Sakupanya. That's him sitting on the left at the foot of the table, and he has got other people close to him, his son David, and they're all plotting on what their next steps are going to be. And some people have referred to the precab farm as Dinyane School. This goes way back to 2004 during the Cholocho Declaration, when Jonathan Moyo, Emmerson Mnangagwa resolved that the top leadership of ZANU PF, that is the president and then the two vice presidents, and I think the secretary general, something like that. So this is where Emmerson Mnangagwa, his precab farm, has become a sort of like a Dinyane school for putting things in place for the future. That is for their own long-term survival. And who is being invited to precab farm? You can see who is who in Emmerson Mnangagwa's faction. It's mostly young people, and you won't see military generals and those sort of people, or even the war vets. All you are seeing is the people Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed into power. Last week, it was Kurata Gwirei, and then we had Lieutenant General Sanyatwe, and then Love Matuke. So these are the people who are in charge of 2030. It's 2030 has become sort of a taboo subject amongst ZANU PF. You remember during the burial of Chinga Due, the military actually ordered those ZANU PF supporters who are holding 2030 banners to just like sort of fold them and put them to the side. And this is symbolic of what actually is happening with Emmerson Mnangagwa's ambitions of a third term. They're just being sort of like wrapped up and folded to the side just like that. So I feel pity for the old man, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Although it's difficult to empathize with someone who has inflicted so much damage on Zimbabwe as a country's prospects, it looks like power is slipping from him. He is losing the grip, and the power is slipping away from his hands as the weeks progress. So 22 October, that's the climax, and we'll have to see what the political landscape will look like after the 22nd of October. So then in terms of alternatives, I feel so disheartened talking about factional politics in ZANU PF, because frankly, to be honest with you, it doesn't inspire a lot of hope talking about Emmerson Mnangagwa on the other hand, and Chewenga, as the best that Zimbabwe can do. But then here I'm just talking about the factional infighting in ZANU PF, and then giving you a heads up on what actually is taking place. But really, to be honest with you, it doesn't inspire a lot of hope. What would anyone expect out of someone who is 82 years old? Remember, Emmerson Mnangagwa, some people think he was not even born in 1942. He was born somewhere, maybe in 1938. So he might even be 86 years old. He might be even older than that. And there is no one who knows actually the truth. And if you have someone who is 86 years, 82 or even 86 years old, and they still want to be president, is there anything innovative? Is there anything new we are going to get out of that? And then we have Constantino Chewenga on the other side of the aisle, and you have got someone who's been a military general. Yes, we don't dispute that in the security sector where Chewenga learned his trade, where he was leading the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, he probably was good at his job. But does that mean, does that translate to having someone like that as president of Zimbabwe? What is it that they are going to do? The country right now is in a mess. We have got fires all over Harare and Mbare, Avondale, Willowvale, and fires are sprouting all over the place. And we don't know whether those fires are being set off deliberately or they are simply accidents. And then, but the main point is that the fire services, they cannot respond. There are not enough fire engines. And then talking about the Association for the War Veterans themselves, what is this? What is the essence of the organization? What is that? What is it that they do? I say it somewhere, and it says their primary mission is to advocate for the welfare and interests of the Liberation War veterans. This includes pressing for adequate pensions, public benefits, and land ownership. And I think, frankly, to be honest with you, I don't dispute that these people, they did some good at some point, like participating in the war of liberation. But I think they are beyond their sale by debt. And these are the sort of people who are holding back Zimbabwe, people who are well out of touch with a lot of what's happening, the problems confronting the country. They do not have anything to consolidate, to give back to the country, except advocating for their own interests, advocating for what they can squeeze out of the public coffers. And this is the problem we have. And what we need is an opposition that articulates the real needs of the people. They clearly express the wishes of the people. And the only way we can have that is having an organization, an opposition that is free of interference by the government and the security services. We cannot have that imposter Shawangu as the face of the opposition. Let me show you some interesting figures. This is in the by-election in Binga that took place in Binga. I think it's on the 5th of October. I have looked, to be honest with you, there is something puzzling about this. I have looked on the website of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. There are no results for that for that by-election. And it surprises that that election was conducted by the ZEC, yet they do not have the results. I checked the Zimbabwe Electoral Support Network. There is no information on that. The only thing I could get was on the social media, but I wanted actually to just something that gives us hope that the future might actually be brighter than what we think. Yes, so I'm talking about the recent by-election in Binga. And there were 5 polling stations, and I just wanted to discuss this with you. And for most people, they think that Shabangu has captured the opposition, is infiltrated the opposition, and handed over the Triple C MPs to ZANU PF, and all hope is lost. But look at that. We have got Chewenga Primary School, and the ZANU PF candidate at that polling station polled 216 votes, compared to the independent Chamisa's candidate, who won 78. And then at Chibondo Primary School, the ZANU PF candidate won 233 votes against the independent 111. Then at Manjolo High School, the ZANU PF candidate won 201 votes compared to the independent candidate 68. And then at Manjolo Primary School, the independent got 145 compared to ZANU PF's 246. the ZANU PF candidate obviously won the election, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the independent candidate had no party structures. There was hardly any campaigning, and ZANU PF has employed the FARS and other intimidating tactics, and even then the independent candidate still performed far, far better than the CC. The Triple C, and even ZANU PF cannot say it's one election where it's contesting against the Triple C, because the Triple C virtually is now a wing of ZANU PF. It's now been absorbed into ZANU PF. We can't talk about this as representing the opposition. So the blue movement, they have to get their act together. They have to start actually now putting structures in place, putting all those things we need to have a political party in place. They have to start doing that. We cannot have this scenario where we have ZANU PF holding these phony elections where it's campaigning against itself and running against these phony setups like the Triple C. We actually need a real opposition, and we need that as of yesterday. So this is what I'm talking about. The other election that was held, I think that was on the 5th of October, there was Mzingwane. ZANU PF was claiming on all polling stations to have got 100% of the votes, yet it was contesting against other candidates. There were 2 or 3 candidates who were standing against the ZANU PF candidate, but yet it was claiming to have 100% of the votes. So it was obviously massive vote rigging, and it brings into question, why do we have to maintain this charade where we have ZANU PF claiming to be holding elections, by-elections, to bother with elections at all? Or what we need is just like they can just like dispense with the business of running elections at all and rule by one-man rule, the military dictatorship we have, that sort of thing, then they will show the rest of the world their true colors, rather than having these phony elections where ZANU PF is the only party and the rest, they are just there to give credibility to a flawed process. Right. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Tatenda Siyabonga. Thank you. Bye.